Surgery for any woman having to deliver a baby. And a new report shows doctors are giving black women the procedure whether it's needed or not. This is all according to a new study in New Jersey. More black women were reported being sent to have that surgery because of the financial incentives that come with busy operating rooms. This has come under heavy scrutiny since C-sections can put even the healthiest woman under high risk for serious medical complications. Joining us tonight to talk about this, mother and registered nurse Tequila Russell, board-certified OBGYN Dr. Tamika Cross, and mother Millie Rucker. Glad to have
And so when I was pregnant with my 5-year-old son, they were trying to force me to have a C-section, and I began advocating for myself, like, no, y'all basically are trying
What reason did they say you needed to have a C-section?
They were basically rushing me, saying that my son wasn't turning like he needed to. I wasn't dilating in the amount of time that I guess they needed me to. And so I told them I would literally get up and walk out and go home and have my child if they tried to force me to do that. And a few hours later, I had a healthy, almost 10-pound baby naturally. And after that, I vowed to myself that I would never have another child at the hospital. And I gave birth in 2022 to a baby girl, and I had her naturally with a water birth at a birthing center.
From a black woman perspective, we are not, they figure we don't have advocates, they figure we don't have the literacy, and we won't speak up for ourselves, you know, we won't be heard. That's always been the case from a black woman perspective. So who else to push to fill those numbers and get that revenue in versus black women?
Have you ever seen anything that made you like, this is...
Now, that sister that was just speaking, the second sister, she is a nurse of 12 years, and she was explaining that, you know, out of all women, why not push black women to get these C-sections? Because during COVID, what happened was nobody was in the operating room. Because nobody's in the operating room, the hospitals were losing money. And of course, hospitals have to pay the employees. Well, the medical field is about making money. Hospitals are about making money. Y'all know that. We all know that. Well, this sister was explaining that to get people put in, she was an ER nurse, and to get people in those operating tables, yes, they would push for that. And who more to do that to than black women out of all women, is to have them have C-sections when they actually don't have to have a C-section.
Is so wrong.
Oh, of course.
What I'm seeing in this hospital or in this doctor's office when it comes to black women.
Of course. I did feel pressured to have C-sections. I've had 3 C-sections and 2 VBACs, which is vaginal birth at the cesarean section, which I had to force and advocate for, to the point where my OBGYN was irate with me and made me sign a waiver before I left her office, demanding that I not have a vaginal birth. But my first one was failure to progress. You know, like you asked her what was the reason given. It was a long labor, but honestly, my failure was to progress was partially because they gave me too much medication. I couldn't feel my legs to push or anything. The person who was giving me my anesthesia, I don't know if they didn't get my weight right or whatever, but I was completely numb. That's not fair for a birthing mom to not be able to feel her birthing process.
Y'all hear that? Now, this is a story that shocked me because I don't know a lot about C-sections. I always looked at C-sections like they were done because it had to be done, or it was a part of birth, but I never questioned it. As I started to learn more history, I started to learn ancient history, and I started to see how women had births, particularly like Hebrew women and Egyptian women, like how a woman would give birth on the stools, natural births. I started to wonder, why is it that that is not something that's a norm? And once again, that needs to be studied. But what you hear these sisters say is that they were pressed to have a C-section. The one sister, she had C-sections with some of her children, the first probably 3 children, then her last 2, she insisted on having a natural birth, and she had a natural birth without any complications. The second sister, who was a nurse, also had her last two births as a natural birth. The fact that they're making, if a woman, if sisters were to have C-sections, it makes them more money. The fact that this is happening just shows you that our people are considered less than. But I'm going to show you that this is a historical fact where our people in the medical field, under the guise of being cared for, have always been looked at as people who they can do experiments on. They don't have to really pay attention to. Our pain isn't as bad as other people's pain. And y'all probably would agree that when Black women, who are 4 more times likely to die during pregnancy than other women, when they go to the hospital and you have a physician that is a white physician or an East Indian physician or an Asian physician, they probably are not actually hearing our sisters like they would hear other groups. They probably don't think that our sisters' concerns are as important as other groups. I'm not going to say think, because we know that there is malpractice documented when it comes to Black folks, Black women, just Black people in general. Okay. And I'm going to get into this book. Let me read this comment. Somebody gave me a comment. L. Jackson, Medical Apartheid. The book speaks to what you are talking about. That's funny you brought that up, L. Jackson, because look what I got here. Glad you brought that up. L. Jackson, are you sure? Let me look around. I ain't got no cameras in here. Somebody spying on me. This is the book called Medical Apartheid, right? The dark history of medical experimentation on Black Americans.